Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. We just returned from a PPTQ, the second PPTQ playing blue-black control in standard. We ran back pretty much the same list, the only difference being that we changed the pool for from tomorrow to be a fourth copy of hieroglyphic illumination, and out of the sideboard we changed a Vizier of Many Faces to be a Gonti Lord of Luxury. The reasoning behind each of these were the fact that it seemed like when I drew Pool from Tomorrow, it was early on in the game, and I generally wouldn't have enough lands for it to actually matter, which could just be due to small sample sizes. As a one-of, we should find it later in the game statistically. And we changed the Vizier to Gonti due to the fact that we weren't seeing very many Carnage Tyrant decks, and instead we were playing against Approach of the Second Sun a lot, so you can hopefully steal their Approach after they cast it the first time with Gonti. Go ahead and get into the round-by-round analysis. Our round one, we played against a blue-red combo control deck. It just had a lot of grindy cards for blue and red to act as the controlling to get it to the late game where it could enact its combo of using Indomitable Creativity along with Spell Swindle as its main counter spell and Treasure Map to make a bunch of treasures. It could then target those treasures with Indomitable Creativity, search its library for any number of creatures equal to the number of treasures destroyed, and it would then put 3-4 Glory Bringers, maybe a Torrential Gearhulk or two onto the battlefield all in the same turn. So we managed to get through that deck, 2-0ing it in a couple of very grindy matches. I think we had maybe 10 minutes left when we started our second round, our second game of that match. So we seemed to have a pretty good matchup there. It all just kind of came down to not letting Indomitable Creativity resolve, or whenever it did resolve, keeping it minimum by bouncing the treasure tokens or doing whatever you could to minimize the effects of that card. Our second round was against Esper Tokens. This seemed like an awful matchup for us, particularly because it wasn't just a standard Esper Tokens deck. I'll pull that up right now. The main difference between this Esper Tokens deck that I'm looking at on MTG Goldfish and the one we played against was the fact that it used 4 copies of Treasure Map and Marionette Master. It also then was much more dedicated to creating artifacts. That way Marionette Master was constantly hitting you for some amount, whether that be 4 or 1, depending on what you did with the... I want to say it's improvised, but that's not the right mechanic. You know what I mean. So we lost to this pretty handily. It seemed to be an awful matchup for us. Game 2, we grinded away. We almost stabilized. However, I made one major mistake where my opponent had Hidden Stockpile in play, a Marionette Master on 4. We had Lethal on the board if we got to untap and swing again. And our opponent had 1 Servo in play as well. They also only had 1 mana untapped. So they attacked with their 1 Servo, and we were at 8. I should have paid more attention to what mana they had untapped, because I was thinking that they were just going to sack the Servo, hit me for 4, and then hit me for 4 again with the Hidden Stockpile trigger. So I thought I was dead on board, but whenever he attacked, I thought maybe there was a chance he didn't recognize the line. So I went ahead and blocked, not realizing that he didn't have 2 mana open, so he actually needed me to block in order to hit me for 8. So that was a big misplay in Game 2. There's a chance we would have come back in Game 3, because I think the matchup gets better for us post-side, but it's definitely a tough matchup anyway. So we went into round 3, 1-1, played against Grixis Energy, which we handled pretty easily. I think their mana base is a little bit more confused than ours, and our answers are just powerful enough to deal with all of their threats that once we finally get to land a Scarab God, we have a number of great targets in the form of Glory Bringer, and all Whirler Virtuoso, all those type of things in their graveyard, that we end the game within 2 turns. So I think that's a really good matchup for blue-black control. Moving into round 4, excuse me just a moment. Moving into round 4, we played against red-black aggro. We handled this pretty easily as well. All of our Moment of Cravings and Essence Extraction seemed to do a pretty good job stabilizing our life total, keeping that up high enough until we were able to slam some number of Torrential Gearhulks or Scarab Gods. so that we could end the game pretty quickly in those following turns. So pretty much just how we've drawn it up to this point, excluding the Esper tokens, although we were pretty much aware that that was going to be a bad matchup for us anyway. Going into our 5th round, this was our win and in. If we won this round, we would have made top 8. We once again played against Red-Black Aggro. This version was a little bit more interaction heavy, but the primary difference between the two matches, round 4 and round 5, is the fact that my opponent in round 5 found 2 Scrap Heap Scroungers the first game. I stumbled on mana a tad, which made it difficult. However, they ended us pretty easily with the 2 Scrap Heap Scroungers just grinding us out of cards, because although we gain life off of most of our removal spells, they're still just 1-for-1. So whenever they are constantly getting multiple 2-for-1s by returning Scrap Heap Scrounger, we end up so far behind that we really need to find a Gearhulk or a Scarab God to solidify the board. Our opponent ended up having an unlicensed disintegration for our 1 Gearhulk we found in round 1, or in game 1. So we died pretty easily there. Game 2, our opponent found 3 Scrap Heap Scroungers. I did my best to keep their graveyard empty of anything but Scrap Heap Scroungers, hoping they would just exile 1 Scrap Heap Scrounger to the next in order to return it. However, he was patient enough that he didn't do that, and we eventually just got ground out. The same thing occurred. So that matchup really seems to come down to Scrap Heap Scrounger. I'm going to take a look at the sideboard and even possibly the main deck again to find out if we need a few more exile effects. I think all of the cheaper ones are pretty bad. There are the two different 3-mana ones that exile. There's Doomfall, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but it's basically the copy from Ixalan that also is in Rivals of Ixalan, except for its instant speed and it exiles. But they cost 3 mana, and they can only target things with power 3 or less. So it's possible that that's just not good enough for the rest of the matchups. We'll just have to work on some other way of attacking Scrap Heap Scrounger. We'll have to take a look at that for the future. So once again, we lost our winning into top 8. I was pretty happy with the way we played. Definitely made a few mistakes. Definitely had some things to learn from once again. However, I want to congratulate both Tom and Corey, who play. Tom actually owns the local shop here, Infinite Consortium Games in Sharon, PA. Both of them made top 8, Tom being the #1 seed. I think Corey ended up being the 2nd seed as well. I imagine they're still playing top 8 right now as we speak, so good luck to them. And one last thing before we close this up, I just want to let you guys know how happy I am to be here today, because on the way back, I actually got into a car accident, and I'm really glad I had somebody watching over me, because I went off the road going 80 miles an hour, just straight off the road when a snowplow driver. Anyway, he may have had a lapse in judgment, and I'm just glad to be here, guys. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you'll keep watching, and appreciate any information or comments you'd like to supply regarding the list or any of the things I mentioned today. Thanks for watching.